Hi, my name's Philly Sweetnam and I'm currently in National Accounts looking after two high street customers called Boots and Superdrug. So at university I did a 3-year course at the University of Nottingham and I did human geography, which is a mix of obviously a lot of geography modules, physical and human, and I also did a few business modules and a few economics modules, so that gave me a bit of insight into marketing and sales and business. So I've always been quite interested in marketing and probably less so sales at the start, but products, marketing, how they're branded, how they're packaged, how they end up on our shelves. And I actually applied for 7 different graduate schemes, all in the FMCG sector. And when I went to the assessment day for Coca-Cola Enterprises, it really stood out for me. And it was a number of different things. It was partly just the culture. It was quite informal. I'm quite an informal person, so I really liked how personable it was. It was really exciting. They gave us a few presentations on the company and the business ahead of the assessment centre, which I thought was a really great touch. And I just got that feeling. And I ended up getting accepted for 3 graduate schemes, but this one just stood out. So it wasn't that I had to pick it, but I genuinely thought I could see myself working there, which I was right. So my first rotation was field sales. So I did 6 months a bit further afield in Kent, so more on the outskirts in the countryside. It was quite difficult and quite a challenging role because it's a lot harder to sell in a lot of our products in those areas. And then I did my second 6 months in central London, so very different customers, very different challenges. And it was a very good role to do because it grounded me in sales. And like I said, I actually was initially really interested in marketing and in the brand side. And doing that first year in a sales role totally changed my mentality to marketing as a whole. And I think doing sales at first is really important for that. So yeah, that was my first role. My second rotation was at the Coca-Cola Company in brand activation. So we get plans down from the European team and then we have to activate them to suit the needs of our market. And I was lucky enough to work on Christmas and then Share a Coke too, which was a fantastic experience. And I also worked on Schweppes. So not only the Coke brand, but a very different adult special brand. So really good breadth. And during my rotation, they decided to put me in a media and digital role. So how do we buy our space out in media and on screens and in tube stations? And that was really interesting and very, very different from the field sales role. And then within that role, I actually got to work in the public affairs and communications team. And I did a role for Coca-Cola Zero Park Lives. So that's to do with how we're investing money to get more people active. And the whole PAC team is a very, very different side of our business. So the beauty of this role is you get to see so many different parts of the business in a very short space of time. Especially if you ask, you often get those opportunities. So my role post-programme, my third year role was actually national accounts, and I decided I'd learnt a lot in that role and I wanted to carry on doing it for a bit longer because every customer is so different. But my customers I were on were a contract caterer called Compass and a licensed wholesaler called Nichols, so very, very different. And I really wanted to get a high street and well-known brand, and it's probably not common to everyone across Europe, but in GB, Boots and Superdrug are really well-known, well-established brands on the high street, but they don't focus on food and drink. It's not like a supermarket chain. So their focus is actually on pharmacy and skincare and beauty products. And I quite like the challenge of having to manage soft drinks in an environment where it's not the customer's priority. So I applied for the role and I ended up getting it and starting about 7 weeks ago. And the experience I got on the grad scheme and the breadth I got has been really valuable for this role. And I also wanted to do a role that gave me a bit of brand as well as customer-facing national accounts. And Boots in particular has a huge amount of strategic emphasis for Diet Coke, so I knew I'd be able to do some brand work within that, which is why I thought it would be a good fit for me. I'd say the breadth is probably one of my favourite things. I quite like a varied role, and I like dotting around and trying new things, and that's what's so great about this role. In 3 years you can do 3 or 4 placements and learning about a lot of parts of the business and of marketing and of Coke that you never really knew existed. I think before I started I had quite a naive perspective of what sales and marketing were, and then you start doing roles and you realise there's so much more involved than you ever thought there would be. So sometimes you'll do roles you don't think sound like your idea of, you know, your dream role, and you end up really loving it, and a role you thought that you'd really love is something that actually turns out not to play to your strengths. And I think the breadth Coke gives you learn a lot about yourself as well as business, and that's valuable for CCE because you learn what your strengths are, and then you can deliver the best possible outcomes for the business. So it's really great, the breadth. The cross-system experience is really good as well. So we're quite a unique business in how we're set up, being the bottler and the brand kept separate. And you'll meet people that have been at CCE for 15, 20, 25 years that have never got to work on both sides. And being able to do that within your first 2 years is a really invaluable experience. I know not everyone will, because of this, they might be in supply chain, they might be in HR, but even being on a grad scheme like you are and being friends with one another, you can learn a lot from the other grads. So just having people close to you and in your immediate network that have cross-system experience is really, really valuable. And you'll come to realise that the more roles you do, because for a lot of people it's a bit of an ivory tower over on the other side, and it immediately reduces that mentality. And then finally for me, the people that I've met, I think I really mean this, CCE, the people I've met at CCE are very different to a lot of people at different companies where my friends have worked. Everyone's willing to help. It's incredibly unusual to meet someone that isn't willing to give up their time to help and support you. And because of the different departments you work in, at the end of 3 years, I probably know more people than some people that have been here for double or triple my time, and I feel quite lucky to have that. And along the way, you'll meet people that will be informal mentors to you. I still pick up with my old sales manager, my first sales manager. He's actually left CCE now, but he's always around for me to bounce ideas off and give me advice. And you'll just meet such great people. So keep them close to you and keep building your network. I think, firstly, I'd make use of the CCE Academy. I know it's something that might be drummed into and you'll hear about a lot from HR, but it genuinely is a fantastic asset and something that a lot of other companies, in fact most companies, don't have available to them. And I'd urge you to go on there, look around. You don't have to do courses necessarily related to your immediate job, but just that you're interested in. There's 1-day courses, there's 3-day courses, there's week-long courses, and especially in your first year role when you might have a bit more time and flexibility, I'd definitely look at what's available. If you're in field sales, there's great negotiation courses, and I'm sure there's the same for supply chain and HR. And all the other different business units. So get on CCE Academy as soon as you can, because it's a great resource to have. And I think my other top tip from me, which I've really tried to follow, is to make the most of every role. In any job that you do, and especially for most, it's probably your first job, you'll do roles in this grad scheme that you might worry aren't playing to your strengths, or they're not really what you were hoping to get out of the grad scheme, and you'll actually find those are often the roles where you learn the most and develop the most and learn more about yourself. And as I said earlier, I actually found that the roles that I thought I'd love, I ended up perhaps not enjoying as much as those that I initially was a bit unsure of. So make the most out of every role, take what you can from them, ask loads of questions. You'll meet so many great people, keep in contact with them and enjoy. I think I would have to choose Coke Zero, and probably because, and I know it sounds a bit corny, but I have zero regrets about joining CCE. It's a fantastic company. I wouldn't have wanted to start my career anywhere else. There's so many amazing people, amazing brands, amazing opportunities in your role and outside of your role. And yeah, I think it's been the perfect place for me, and I'm sure it'll be the perfect place for all of you. I wish you all loads of luck in your first role and for the whole of the grad scheme. Enjoy your 2 days together, and if any of you ever have any questions, feel free to email me or call me.